السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So inshallah we continue with this topic which is difficult family issues in the Quran, and we will finish inshallah tonight the topic of Surah An-Nur, or what is called the slander of Aisha radiallahu anha. We still have maybe a couple of ayahs to talk about, and then we move to a different story. So last time we stopped at ayah maybe 23, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed those who falsely accuse chaste and aware and believing women are cursed in this world. This is a very, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about a major sin here. They are cursed in this world and the hereafter, and they will have a great punishment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning those who accuse the chaste and aware and believing women. They are staying at home, they don't know what's going on, people are talking about them outside and falsely accusing them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam confirmed in his sunnah that it is a major sin, or one of the, actually he called it, when he said in the famous hadith, اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات. He said, stay away, avoid the 7 great destructive sins, or the 7 deadly sins. And he started with shirk, taking a partner or associating a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he mentioned magic, killing an innocent person, an innocent soul, and he mentioned some other sins, and then at the end he said قَذْفُ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ الْغَافِلَاتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. So it is one of the 7 destructive sins, which is accusing or falsely accusing the chaste and aware believing woman. And this hadith is found in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim too. It is agreed upon. And then the next ayah, he said يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ وَأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He said actually their tongues will witness against them, and their hands will witness against them, and their feet will witness against them. They will be a witness for what they used to do. So people will be disputing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a different hadith we know that the person will refuse to accept any other witness except himself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, yes, you want a witness from yourself? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place a seal on his mouth. And then his body parts will be talking. And he will be witnessing against him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about these people who are accusing, chaste women, al-mu'minat al-ghafilat. How about Aisha radiallahu anha? The As-Siddiqa bint As-Siddiq radiallahu anha, the most beloved wife of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, among his wives. And he used to have a great relationship with Aisha. His wife is his honor. عِرْضُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And still people are talking about her and her story till today. And then in the next ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said يَوْمَئِذٍ يُوَفِّيهِمُ اللَّهُ دِينَهُمُ الْحَقِّ وَيَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقُّ الْمُبِينَ. That day Allah will pay them in full their deserved recompense for what they did. And they will know that it is Allah who is perfect in justice. And then at the end of this story, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in in ayah 26, a very important principle for everyone. Every Muslim should be concerned about this. And he said here, الْخَبِيثَاتُ لِلْخَبِيثِينَ وَالْخَبِيثُونَ لِلْخَبِيثَاتِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتُ لِلطَّيِّبِينَ وَالطَّيِّبُونَ لِلطَّيِّبَاتِ أولئك مبرؤون مما يقولون لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم. So here there are different translations of this ayah. One of the translations is that evil words are for evil men, and evil men are more subjected to evil words, and good words are for good men, and good men are an object of good words. Those people are declared, those people who are declared innocent of what the slanderers say. Those innocent people, those pure people, the latter ones were mentioned here, at-tayyibun wa-tayyibat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is declaring them innocent of what the slanderers, those who accuse them falsely. And then he said, for them is forgiveness and a noble provision for those who are innocent. But most of the translators translated this ayah in a different way. So there are basically two translations here. Most of them, they said, in principle, corrupt women are for corrupt men, and corrupt men are for corrupt women, just as good and pure women are for good and pure men, and good and pure men are for good and pure women. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the second part, He said, on account of their purity, the latter are innocent of all that evil tongues impute to them. For them is forgiveness and a generous provision. So the ulama here, they said basically purity or impurity is either prescribed or attributed to people. So there are pure people and people who are not pure. People who are corrupt. Or this purity or impurity is ascribed to actions and deeds. And Al-Allama ibn al-Qayyim, he said, this ayah actually includes all these tafasir. So there are pure people and their actions and their statements are pure, because pure actions and pure statement would come from good people and pure people, right? But if someone is filthy, he's not a pure, he doesn't have a clean intention, then his action and his statements and his deeds will not be pure. So Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayh, he said, this ayah should include all these statements or all these tafasir. And this is what Al-Allama ibn Jarir said, the famous mufassir. He said, this is the right translation or interpretation of this ayah. He said, evil speech is more suited to evil people, and good speech is more suited to good people. And he said, what the hypocrites attributed to Aisha radiallahu anha is more suited to them, and she is radiallahu anha more suited to innocence. So these are the aqwal or the opinions of mufassirun about this ayah. But this is a warning actually to all of us, to every Muslim. Every one of us should be concerned about this ayah. Why? Because the ulama, they said, based on this ayah, we have to watch what we say. And that's why we have the Arabic saying, كُلُّ إِنَاءٍ بِمَا فِيهِ يَنْضَحُ. There is a famous Arabic saying, كُلُّ إِنَاءٍ بِمَا فِيهِ يَنْضَحُ, which could be translated, a vessel filters what it contains. So what comes out of your mouth, actually, it is an indication of what is inside. So you have to be careful. And there is a famous saying in English, they said, what is bred in the bone will come out in the flesh. So we have to be careful about the language we use. And people don't know what is inside your heart, but the moment you talk and you interact with them, and the way you address them, the way you talk to them, people will have an idea about your personality. So this is something that we have to pay attention to. That's why Rasulullah said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." He said, whoever believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day, then let him speak in a good way. Or if he doesn't find anything good to say, let him be quiet. Let him be silent. It's better for him. It's better than taking a risk and saying something that doesn't please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll be taken to account for it on the day of judgment. Nas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala salama wal afiyah. So as a conclusion, ya ikhwan, as a conclusion, what we learn from this story, that patience has a sweet fruits. Patience will always have sweet fruits. You are always a winner when you are patient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be in your side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be in your side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will declare your innocence when you are patient. And also al-ihsan. And the example of Abu Bakr is a wonderful example of ihsan. Going that extra, making that extra mile for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know what I'm talking about? His behavior, or what he did to his cousin. The same cousin who accused Aisha, who used to receive, who was poor, and he used to receive financial support from Abu Bakr, and yet he participated in this evil talk. But yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end invited Abu Bakr to forget about his sin, forget about his mistake. You know, when I gave my khutbah today, I told people in my khutbah that, you know, we have the freedom to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything when you make dua. Except there are two restrictions. There are two restrictions in our dua. You cannot ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you commit a sin. This is the first restriction. You cannot. Otherwise it will be a major problem here. You cannot ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, help me to be a sinful person. You can't do that. And the second restriction is, you don't make a dua against a family member. Because this is qati'at rahim. You know, I got people after the khutbah telling me, I can't. They have done too much evil to me. Family, we're talking about family members. I still you can use Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel, you can use other du'as. But it's difficult. I cannot tell you. Are you seeking a fatwa from me? Do you want me to tell you, go and make dua against your family members? Even if they took your money, took your property. I mean, they are family members at the end. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them hidayah. So they restore your rights. And they give you your money, or they give you your properties, or whatever they have taken from you. Or they ask for your forgiveness if they hurt you in any way or shape. But don't make dua against your family members. They are at the end your family members. So you can say, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel, or wa ufawwidu amri ila Allah inna Allah basirun bil ibad. If you feel that you are the victim of evil plots, this is an indirect statement asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection. This is the dua of the wa ufawwidu amri ila Allah inna Allah basirun bil ibad. The dua of whom? Mu'min Ali Fir'aun. In which surah this dua is mentioned? Surah Ghafir. Do you know the number of the ayah? 44, ayah 44. This man believed in Musa alayhi salam secretly. So the people of Fir'aun found out about him and they wanted to kill him. So he made that beautiful dua, وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I entrust all my affairs to Allah. وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing of His servants. He sees them. He knows about their plans. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not ghafil. He knows about their plans. He knows about their strategies. He knows about their plots. So فَوَقَاهُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِ مَا مَكَرُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided his protection. Here comes the importance of dua, ya ikhwan. But you need to make dua in the right way. So here we talked about sabr. We talked about ihsan. These are the great lessons we learned from the story of Aisha. And what else? Husnul dhann. Maintaining a good opinion about other people. Maintaining good opinion about your family members. Rasulullah ﷺ was a little bit, we said, confused. He was asking his family members, making mashura with them. But he never mistreated Aisha. He did not mistreat Aisha. For 27 days he didn't open up this issue with her. He knows that she was sick, she was not feeling well. He didn't want to, even though it was a very painful experience for him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Imagine people outside talking about your wife. It's not something easy. This is what he had gone through, what he had, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he was extremely patient. But this is husn al-dhann. He knew. He was just talking, asking because he was a husband. At the end he was a human being. And he had to talk to some of his family members, asking for their opinion and their input. But he had a good opinion about Aisha. And their parents too. Their parents, they did not react in the wrong way. They didn't overreact. So they had a good opinion about their daughter. Now, su'ul dhann, ya ikhwan, is something that is destroying our family relationships. It's destroying. Su'ul dhann, presuming, making wrong assumptions about our family members and friends, and trying to interpret their statement are interpreted in the wrong way. this is something that we have in our family life, in our communal life. You know, someone would say something in a majlis, in a gathering, and you feel that he may be talking about you. Talking about you. Mathalan, for example, I'll give you an example. This is a complaint that I got for a couple of times. Someone who decides not to buy a house through the mortgage. He didn't go to the bank and get a mortgage, even though he's working and he has a full-time job. But all his cousins got their houses through the bank. And then when they get together, he's the only one who is renting. And all of them own their houses. And someone told me, Wallah, it's very difficult. You feel like they're making statements like they're hitting you with missiles. You know, it could be right. These people could be mean and could be trying to encourage him to go to the bank and get his and buy his house. But it's something that he cannot handle. He said it's very difficult. I told him you have to have sabr. Jannah is not cheap. Jannah, ala inna sil'at Allahi ghaliya. If you want Jannah, you have to sacrifice. You have to be patient. I know when your family members start talking about their achievements, and what kind of achievement? Buying a house through a mortgage is not a great achievement. I mean, anyone who has a full-time job can go to the bank and get a house through the mortgage, right? The conventional mortgage. I'm talking about conventional mortgages. But when people start, you know, talking to each other about it and then hinting to you that you could be a failure or you're not successful businessman or you didn't achieve the American dream, you know, owning your house, American dream. Tell them I want what? What kind of dream you're looking for? Jannah. The divine dream. I'm looking for something else. The promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, but we shouldn't exaggerate. There could be someone in our family, in a gathering, he could be talking about his achievement without intending to hurt you. He's just talking about his achievements. If you were not able to make the same achievements, you should be a mu'min that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qassam al-arzaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has divided rizq between people. Some people are wealthy and rich, and some people are not. But the most important thing, people who are making money, are they making money in a halal way or not? This should be the most important thing for you in your mind as a mu'min. If they are making it in a halal way, you should be happy for them and making dua for them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless their wealth and bless them, bless their families. And then this dua will come back to you in a positive way, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send an angel to you, and this angel will make a dua for you. And to you the same. When you make a dua, especially when you make a dua for your brother or your sister or your cousin when they are not in front of you, when it's not in their presence. They don't know that you are making dua for them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you are sincere in your dua, because you're not doing this dua to please them. You're doing it because you love them. And you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless their wealth and bless their family. So this is very important, ya ikhwan. So husn al-dhann, maintaining, I don't want to, it's a very important, subject. Maintaining good people, having this idea or holding this principle that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. It's a very famous saying, right? Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So don't try to look into the intentions of people and trying to make conclusion, jump to conclusion and try to come up with the conclusion. The brother passed by today, he didn't offer salam. Maybe he was busy, maybe he was thinking about something else. Don't try to build a story on it. Don't build a story on it. He was busy, he was thinking about something else. Maybe he had a family issue, he was thinking about the conversation that he had with his wife or something. So give him the benefit of doubt. طيب, we'll move to another subject, which is parent-child relations in the Quran. And we will start with the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The story of Ibrahim alayhi salam is a beautiful story, but it is a difficult one when it comes to his relationship with his father. Majority of ulama believe that his father was not a Muslim. His father was a kafir, and he was making idols. He was actually making them and selling them. making idols and selling them in the market. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about, this difficult issue, or this conversation, beautiful conversation that took place between Ibrahim alayhi salam and his father. And most of the ulama, they said his father, his name was Azar, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned his name in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6. But in Surah Maryam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about the way Ibrahim alayhi salam was addressing his father, the way he was inviting him to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started this story by saying in Surah Maryam, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. So this is the beginning of the story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us that Ibrahim was a great man. He was a man of truth and a prophet. عليه الصلاة والسلام. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يا أبت لم تعبد ما لا يسمع ولا يبصر ولا يغني عنك شيئا. So he said, mention when he said to his father, "Oh my father." But there are some ulama, they said the right translation here should be, "Oh my dear father." Why? Because Ibrahim was saying, "Ya abati." He was not saying, "Ya abi." And there is a difference between "Ya abi," "Ya abati." We'll talk about it here now. But he tell him here, why do you worship that which does not hear, does not see, and does not benefit you in any way? Does not benefit you at all. It's a stone. So basically you are worshipping a stone. This conversation or this incident, this scenario could be repeated at any time. And we have people, Muslim brothers, who accepted Islam, but their parents rejected them or rejected their faith, or they didn't agree with their choice, the decision that they made. They became Muslims now. And sometimes the same in the same family, they get different reactions. One time I was in one province in Canada, in a different place, and there was a sister who accepted Islam. So when she was told that she needs to wear hijab, she was worried about going out for the first time wearing the hijab, because she grew up in the neighborhood and she knows everyone in the neighborhood in that place. It was very difficult for her to suddenly change and wear a hijab, look like a Muslimah walking in the street. So what happened is, I was told by the reaction in the same family, the reaction of her mother was very different than the reaction of her father and her sister. Her mother, she became more Christian now. She's talking about the church and going to the church and holding tight to our deen. We should go back to our deen and learn about Jesus and everything. That was the reaction of her mother. She rejected her deen or her choice, and she was not happy about the decision her daughter made. What was the reaction of her father and her sister? Her father and sister, she was talking to them about the hijab and how difficult it is to go outside for the first time wearing the hijab in a neighborhood where you know everyone. She grew up in that neighborhood, and her father told her and her sister, they thought, we're willing to wear the hijab. The father is saying, I'm willing to wear the hijab and go outside with you to support you. So subhanallah, there are nice people there. He's supporting the decision of his own daughter, even though he did not accept Islam. But he said, I'm willing to wear a hijab and go outside with you as a sign of my support. So anyway, these brothers and sisters who accept Islam, some of them find it easy, alhamdulillah, and they get acceptance from their family members, but some of them are rejected by their families, and they find it very difficult actually to stay within the same family, or to keep actually a good relationship with other family members. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us some guidance here, and we need to pay attention to it, and it applies to those new Muslims, and it applies to those who were not practicing the deen, and they decided to start practicing the deen. They came back to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they start going to the masjid and learning about the deen. But while their parents or other family members are still holding some secular views, and they're worried about, about the new activities or the new direction their children are taking. Some of the parents, they are Muslims, but they don't pray, they don't come to the masjid, and they think that going to the masjid might actually affect, their children in a negative way, and they become like extremists, or they become terrorists, or there are many parents who have these concerns. I'm talking about Muslim parents. I'm not talking about non-Muslim parents. Muslim parents who don't understand their religion, who don't have knowledge, and then when the whole family is secular, they don't practice the deen, and then they got Ahmed or Muhammad, who now started learning suddenly, or Fatima, they started learning about their deen, they're going to university, now participating with MSA, with their activities, and then they're telling their parents, you need to start praying and doing this and that and that. So parents are concerned. So now how to maintain this balance between concern, of course, in the wrong way. They should be happy. They should be happy that their children are coming back to the deen, and they are praying, and they are learning about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is a situation that many of our brothers and sisters find themselves in. And they have to go through this struggle. How do they maintain this balance between Islam, being committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and between difficult parents? So how do we deal in this, with this situation in the most beautiful way? We're looking for the most beautiful way, the guidance of the Quran. Because we agreed before, right? The best guidance is the guidance of the Quran. You should go back to the Quran and learn from the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a principle in Surah Luqman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Luqman, and this is a general principle, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a clear instruction now here, clear guidance. And this guidance is composed of two elements. The first element, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, but if they endeavor to make you associate with me that of which you have no knowledge about, they are inviting you to worship an idol, they are inviting you to become an atheist, inviting you to leave, abandon the prayer, inviting you to abandon the Quran, to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling you this Islam is not good for you, we don't want you to go to the masjid, we don't want you to be to mingle with this bearded man, or sister, don't wear hijab, our daughter, don't wear the hijab, don't do that, and so on and so forth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, لا تطعهما. You cannot obey them if this obedience involves the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الله عز وجل. حديث صحيح في مسند الإمام أحمد. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الله عز وجل. There should be no obedience to the creation if it involves the disobedience to the Creator, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the second element is very important. وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. But he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, but keep company with them in this world with appropriate kindness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about ma'roof. Ma'roof is, when we talk about ma'roof, we talk about good manners, we talk about kindness, we talk about ihsan. The word ma'roof is a general term that includes everything that is good, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to treat your parents. And we are talking about non-Muslim parents here. I want you to pay attention to this. Because the problem that we have in our times, ya ikhwan, there are many youth who, when they find their new, they discover their religion again for the first time. And they start practicing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The problem is some of them become very judgmental. Because their parents are not practicing. they become very judgmental, and they forget that last week or last month or last year they were not practicing. They were like their parents or their sisters and their brothers. They were not praying. They were not reading the Quran. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with guidance. So instead of becoming more humble, instead of humbling themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help to guide their parents and treat their family members with shafaqah, with rahmah, with mercy, because they should be concerned about the well-being of their parents. Like here, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is our main topic today, is he was concerned about the well-being of his father. The way he was approaching him and talking to him. So he was talking to a mushrik, yani someone who is not Muslim. And this is the opinion of majority of scholars. There is a discussion here. There is an opinion of a minority, small group of scholars, that the guy who was having this discussion with Ibrahim was not his father. He was either his grandfather or uncle. And they said actually the parents, Ibrahim's parents, were Muslims, and the proof that Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah Ibrahim included them in his dua, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, forgive his parents, and forgive the rest of the mu'mineen, the believers, in Surah Ibrahim. So they said this could be a proof that his parents, his own parents, were Muslims. But Allahu A'lam, we don't have a clear proof that his parents were Muslims. And we have no information about the mother of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran. But this is the majority of scholars, majority of mufassirin. They said actually this conversation was with Ibrahim alayhi salam and his immediate father, his own father, his real or biological father, it would, if we would call it him this way. So the ulama, they said, you know, the point here, the magic word here, the magic word is to maintain a balance between having an excellent, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about ma'roof here. وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Ma'roof is a very strong word. Maintaining an excellent relationship with your parents, but at the same time giving priority to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it should be clear, right? I know it's easy said, it's easier said than done. I know that. I mean, theory is always beautiful. Theory is always easy to talk about and explain. When it comes to real life, it's very difficult. I know. Especially when you deal with someone who is extremely difficult. I know a father who did not like his daughter when she wore the hijab. He didn't like it. He didn't want her to wear the hijab. In the airport she was traveling, and he came and he tried to remove the hijab or the scarf from her head. She was crying, and then when she started crying, he left the airport. She was traveling, and he went, don't travel with this. It's very difficult. People sometimes come to, you know, to the masajid with these issues, and we always tell them there is no magic solution for this problem. Of course, here you need to, because you have to be very careful. At the end, he's your father. At the end, she's your mother. You have to be extremely careful when dealing with them. Even if they are harsh, if they are difficult to deal with, they are still your parents. You cannot exchange them. You cannot divorce them. Cannot. They are your parents. So you have to be extremely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you have to be extremely careful when you deal with your parents. And here, as I said, this is a very good example because Ibrahim is dealing with a father who is not Muslim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Luqman is saying, even if they tell you, you have to make shirk and make kufr, you don't listen to them. That's okay. This is clear, right? وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Making a balance between your relation, having an excellent relationship with them, and at the same time giving priority to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very important. So the ulama, they said, even if they invite you to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to refuse in the best way. Refuse in the most gentle manner. This is very clear here. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And I'm repeating myself just to emphasize this point here. Because we don't want you to treat your parents with attitude, even if they have a different ideology, different madhab. They invite you to practice a bid'ah, or they invite you to make kufr or do anything. Don't treat your parents with attitude. Your parents are your parents. You can tell them, debate with them. Ibrahim is debating with his father here. Debating, having a debate, a discussion with his father. This is wrong. What you are doing is wrong. I don't believe in that. I'm inviting you to a better way, which is tawheed, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is nothing wrong with having a debate with your parents, but it has to be done in the most beautiful way. So I told you the normal usage of this nida, when you address your parents, your father, you say ya abi. But Ibrahim alayhi salam used ya abati, a different term. And they said the ta here is replacing ya al-mutakallim. The ya here, the pronoun of the first person. First person, ya abi. So, and here he said it is used for a reason, to show that you are addressing your father in the best way, addressing your father with respect. And at the same time, it is an indication of close relationship, or an indication of intimacy, that you have an intimate and close relationship to your father. So you're not someone who is, a stranger. I'm talking to you, you are your father, I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about your well-being. I'm concerned about your future. Because everyone should be concerned about our future on al-akhirah, right? This is the real future that we all hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will make us happy and will allow us to go to Jannah bi-idhnillahi ta'ala when we meet Him. So when it comes to debating and having a debate with your parents, there are many parents who don't like it, or their children argue with them or debate with them. They expect them to say yes all the time. There are Muslim parents who are like that. And sometimes yes, if your child is debating, having a useless debate with you, he's trying just to play a game, using something, that he's not honest in his debate or argument. That's okay. You can tell him, I don't want to have this conversation. But there are parents who don't want to talk to their children about some sensitive issues, some problems that are taking place in this community, in this society. Into the society. Like you have some parents who came from overseas, and they find it difficult to discuss some sensitive issues that are very common in this society. A child will go to the school and talk to his friends, or his friends will talk to him about you know what I'm talking about. Illegal relationship between man and woman. And then some parents will find it very difficult to open up this subject with their children. So the child will come to his dad, because he's innocent, he's learning these things from school, and want to talk to them. I said, no, don't talk to me about this. This is something that he learned from back home. It worked in the old days. Our parents would not discuss this kind of issues with us, right? But here, if you don't talk to your child, what will happen? You're telling him, go and talk about it with other people. And you don't know what kind of message he's receiving from other people. What kind of message he's receiving from a non-Muslim teacher. What kind of message he's receiving from his classmates or friends, right? So you need to be an active parent and try to absorb your pride, forget about your old culture. I'm not saying forget about the deen. No, there's a difference between culture and deen. Because Rasulullah ﷺ used to discuss these issues with the Sahaba. Before saying something, talking about something sensitive, Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Inna Allah la yastahi min al-haq." Don't do this and this and this. Allah does not shy away from the truth. This is a muqaddimah, an introduction. That I'll be talking about something embarrassing. Pay attention here. And then he would say, Allah, Inna Allah la yastahi min al-haq. Allah does not shy away from the truth. Don't do this and this and this. I don't want to mention these examples. They are not our subject today. But one time, on one occasion, he said, رحم الله نساء الأنصار لم يمنعهن الحياء من تعلم أمور دينهن. He said, may Allah have mercy on the woman, the Ansari woman. Haya, modesty and shyness, did not prevent them from coming to the Messenger of Allah and asking about some sensitive issues. Even though they had haya in the community of the Sahaba, they had modesty. Haya was a sign of Iman, right? In the community. But because this is our deen, we need to talk about it. We need to learn it. There are people who, they have been doing things in the wrong way for years. And they didn't know that this is a major sin. I don't want to tell you about these things, but they didn't know that it was a major sin because they didn't have the courage to come to the Imam and talk and ask about it. But there are some people, alhamdulillah, they come and ask. And they learn about their deen. In a private, they ask about these sensitive issues. So either now, we don't have an excuse, even if you don't want to talk to the Imam about it. You have the internet, even though you have to be careful, we're learning from the internet. You have to find the right sources. If you want to learn from the internet, you have to be careful. You ask about, the credibility of some websites or kada, and then you can learn from them. Or, mashallah, you can contact any scholar, get his phone number, or send him an email if you don't want directly to talk to the Imam face to face. There are people who don't mention their names in the email, and they send in emails about some private issues, and they don't tell you who you are. We don't need to know. They don't mention their names, and maybe they create an email for that purpose, a new email, for that purpose, for that specific question. So you don't know them, you don't know their emails, which is fine. Now we don't want to know people, but at least people have to learn about the matters of their deen. So why did we come back to, okay. Khair inshallah. Oh, talking about parents. Yeah, we were talking about parents and having a discussion with their children. So some parents, they don't like it if their children want to have a debate or discuss some matters, which is fine, as long as your children are polite. As long as your children are showing the due respect. They're respecting you, they talk to you in a nice way, that's okay. You can open any discussion, talk to your children about any subject. Actually, they will feel happy. They will feel that you respect them, and you respect their opinion, and you're willing to listen to them. Wallahu ta'ala alam. When it comes to obedience to our parents, the ulama mentioned a very good example, a very good principle here. They said, وَيَلْزَمُ الْإِنسَانَ طَاعَةُ وَالِدَيْهِ فِي غَيْرِ الْمَعْصِيَةِ وَإِنْ كَانَ فَاسِقَيْنِ. About the parents. وَإِنْ كَانَ فَاسِقَيْنِ وَهَذَا فِيمَا فِيهِ مَنْفَعَةٌ لَهُمَا وَلَا ضَرَرَ عَلَيْهِ. So the ulama are giving us some guidelines, they got them from the Quran and the Sunnah, about what is an obedience, when you need to obey you, or you have to obey your parents, listen to them. And when you don't have to listen. So they said the person is obliged to obey his parents in matters that are not a sin. He cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while obeying them. Even if they are sinful people. Your parents are not praying, they are sinful people. They are not good practicing Muslims. You need to obey them, but there are two conditions. What are the conditions? They said in matters, and this has to do with matters that are beneficial for them. They need help with something that is beneficial for them and not harmful for you. They're not asking you for something difficult. Spend money on you, or money that you cannot afford. They ask you for a favor, for example, something that is beneficial for them and it doesn't harm you. Here you have to obey your parents. You have to listen to them. So we're not talking about religious matters. Your father is telling you, hey, you need to pray Fajr on time. This is out of the question. Because this is obvious. Am I wrong or right? If your father tells you, son, you need to wake up for Salat al-Fajr, I mean, if you don't listen to him, you will be disobeying whom? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, you are not listening to your father, who is concerned about you. He wants you to pray Fajr on time. So we're not talking about these matters. Oh, son, you need to pray. Or daughter, you need to pray Dhuhr. You need to say the truth. You need to have, keep good company with people. You need to be humble. So they're asking you to do something good, to follow the Quran, follow the Sunnah. We're not talking about these issues. We are talking about issues that are confusing, they are confusing to people. Should I listen to my parents here or not? They're not clear, they're not obvious. They're not talking to you about Salat, about Zakat, about Hajj, they're talking about something, for example, a matter of this, a worldly affair, a worldly matter. They need some money, they need help with something, they want you to do something, and it doesn't harm you. It is beneficial for them, and it doesn't harm you. So here you need to listen to them. Otherwise, you can have a debate with your parents, and you can argue with you can refuse or express your views in a very polite way. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, when talking to his father, he used the power of what? Of reason and the power of knowledge to debate with his father. So he told him, why do you worship that which does not hear, does not see, and doesn't benefit you at all? So he's now inviting him to what? To use his common sense. This is a stone. It doesn't help you in any way. It doesn't see. It doesn't talk. Why are you worshipping this thing? And then at the next ayah he said, Ya abati, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilmi ma lam ya'tika fattabi'ni ahdika siratan sawiyya. And this is another difficult matter here. Because he's telling his father, oh my father, oh my dear father, indeed there has come to me a knowledge of knowledge that which has not come to you. So follow me. So the son is telling to his dad, follow me. It's a very difficult matter here. Big problem. But this is the truth. This is what happened to Ibrahim. He received revelation from Allah. He received wahi. Ibrahim knows that this is the only way of salvation. Is to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maintain tawheed, and follow the path of monotheism. He cannot keep quiet about it. And he has to convey this message. And it has to be conveyed in the best way. And many parents find it difficult to admit that their own child, have received more knowledge and skills. They have spent time raising him, teaching him or teaching her, and now at the end, he's assuming the position of a teacher. He's telling them what to do, or telling them what is right and what is wrong. Is it possible? Can it be accepted? So the Quran is telling us, yes, it's possible. And the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam is a good example. And the school of life will tell you it's possible. There are children who became highly educated, and they had to teach their parents at an old age. They told them what is wrong and what is right. But they have to do it in the best way. This is the magic word here. The approach is very important. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam did not focus on the ignorance of his father, even though we know that his father was ignorant. If you finish the ayat, Ibrahim's father was very harsh with him. He said, I will stone you. If you don't keep quiet, I will stone you. Get out from my house. That was the reaction of his father, right? But Ibrahim alayhi salam did not focus on the ignorance of his father. He didn't tell him, you are an ignorant person. You don't know what you are talking about. You didn't go to school. Huh? You didn't grow up in this society. You don't know what we are going through. You came from a different culture, or you know what I mean. So Ibrahim alayhi salam is telling his father here that telling him about facts, simple facts. He's not being judgmental. He's not trying to be. He was not judgmental at all. He's not telling him, hey, you are ignorant, you are this. He said, this is what I received from Allah. لَقَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ يَا أَبَتِ إِنِّي قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this knowledge to me. And I have no choice, I have to convey this message to you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Surah Al-Shu'ara, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Anzir, warn the members of your own family. And this is what we are supposed to do. We start with the members of our own family in da'wah. This is what Ibrahim is doing. It started with his father. So you cannot leave your family in dark. You leave your own family members and you start inviting people. People will look at your family and say, you should start with your family members if you're doing da'wah. Doesn't make sense. I mean, you should start. But you can do da'wah, but sometimes, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. We have the example of Ibrahim with his father. We have the example of Nuh with his son. This is the opposite. Here the father is a great messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nuh alayhi salam. And one of his children decided to stay as a mushrik. He did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had 4 sons. 3 of them believed in the message of Nuh alayhi salam. Yafith and Ham and Sam. These are 3 sons. But one of them decided, the 4th one decided not to believe in the mission of his father, not to believe in the message of his father, and he died as a kafir. So this is another example. If we have time, we may talk about it. But I think this story of Ibrahim is it's a beautiful example when it comes to this kind of relationship between parents and children, and they call it generation gap. The way 2 generations interact with each other and they talk to each other. So if the son got some knowledge, was blessed with this knowledge, and he thinks or he believes that he's on the right path, he's following the Quran and the Sunnah, he has the right. This is the conclusion of what I am trying to say here. This is the conclusion. He has the right. You have the right to invite your parents. You should actually. You invite your parents, family members, if they are not. If you believe that they are not praying, they are not following the right path, they're following a different ideology, but you have to do it with respect. You do it with manners, with good manners. You don't judge your parents, you don't hurt their feelings, you don't try to attack them. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was not attacking his father at all. He was just explaining, asking him questions and explaining it to him that he got a knowledge that he himself did not receive. And then he told him, Ya abati, la ta'bud al-shaytan, inna shaytana kana lil-rahmani asiya. Oh my dear father, do not worship Satan. Indeed, shaitan has ever been to the most merciful, disobedient. And the ulama, they said, why was Ibrahim alayhi salam telling his father that you are worshipping shaitan? Well, he was not in reality worshipping shaitan. Was he worshipping shaitan? He was worshipping what? Worshipping idols. So why is he talking about shaitan? They said, the ulama, they said, but everyone who disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or makes shirk, actually in reality he's listening to shaitan, following the path of shaitan or worshipping shaitan. And actually it was, shaitan is knowledge about shaitan, I think was found in every generation, wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Because who faced shaitan in day 1? Adam alayhi salam and Hawa. And I think wallahu ta'ala a'lam, Adam for sure passed this knowledge to his children, and his children passed this knowledge to their children, and so on. So human beings have known about the evil plots of shaitan throughout generations. That's why when Ibrahim alayhi salam is talking to his father about shaitan, we assume that his father got some knowledge about shaitan. So he's trying to tell him that actually you are not worshipping these stones. It is shaitan you are the victim of his evil plots, the victim of shaitan's evil plot. This is the reality. You are not worshipping these idols, you are worshipping shaitan himself. And here it becomes, he's trying to bring to his attention the graveness or the seriousness of his practices, of his ways. This is what you are doing. And that's why when we go to Hajj, ya ikhwan, when we go to Hajj, one of the best acts of worship is to throw those stones. And many people do not realize, they don't know the wisdom or the beauty actually of this act, and they become very angry and they start throwing things. Shaitan is not there. It's symbolic. What is the wisdom of this act of worship, ya ikhwan? You are making a statement by doing this. Because this is the place Shaitan came when Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfill the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sacrifice his son. And that was a great test for Ibrahim alayhi salam. Imagine sacrificing your own son. Your own son, your own daughter. With this, you take a knife and sacrifice your son. So that was the level of obedience and submission that Ibrahim alayhi salam had. He was willing to do that. Shaitan knew that if Ibrahim is willing to do that, that means this man will be successful, the most successful person on earth. Because you are showing here, he was showing here the highest level of submission to the will of God. So I am willing to submit. So this is what you want me to do? Ya Allah, I am willing to sacrifice my son if this is what you want, for your sake. So that means everything is out of my heart. There is nothing beside you in my heart, inside my heart. This is what Ibrahim, this is the statement Ibrahim was trying to make. And he was serious about it, Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Allah knew that Ibrahim is serious about it and he's willing to do it. And that was one of his tests. Because that another difficult test when he had to leave, first of all, before that, when he had to leave his own wife and his own child in the middle of the desert. In a barren valley, plantless valley. There was no Kaaba, no water, no food, no people there. And he was commanded to do it, and he did it, alayhi salam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded him. And his family was blessed with Zamzam. For the last 4,000 years, people have been drinking Zamzam, and it's still there. Still there. Zamzam to me is a miracle. Because look at the location of the Kaaba and the place of Zamzam and the mountains that are surrounding that place. It should be a dirty water, but it is pure water. No one got affected. I don't know anyone who said they went to Mecca and made Hajj or Umrah and brought Zamzam and they got sick. I felt that the water was not pure or something. I've never heard this statement in my life. Anyway, we're talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam. So in that moment, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Shaitan knew that Ibrahim is about to offer great or make a great act of ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, showing his submission to Allah. So at that time he wanted to make waswasa, he was trying to make waswasa, trying to stop Ibrahim from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we go to Hajj and we throw these stones, these poles, Shaitan is not there. But the message, the statement you make, or the Hujjaj make, is that, Ya Allah, I am dissociating myself from Shaitan. I'm making complete dissociation with Shaitan. I'm separating myself from Shaitan and coming back to you. Coming back to you, Allah. I'm submitting my will to you, Ya Allah. And that's why Rasulullah said, Al-Hajjul Mabrur laysa lahu jaza'un illa al-Jannah. He said the perfect Hajj, al-Mabrur, Hajj that has no sins, no ma'asiyah, no disobedience in it, has no reward except Jannah. There is no reward for it except Jannah. Nas'al Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yaj'alana min ahli Jannah. So in the next ayah, Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Ya abati, inni akhafu an yamassaka adhabun min ar-Rahman fatakuna lish-shaytani waliya. Inni akhafu, I am worried about you. I'm worried about your safety. This is what I am worried about. I'm not debating with you for the sake of, arguing or debating, or because I want to, prove that I am right and you are wrong, because this is something that that happens. It's very common. You have a debate with them and you think, a father, he thinks that you are trying to prove yourself right and that's it. This is your purpose. This is your intention. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, this is what I'm worried about. I'm worried about your safety. And then he said, at the end, of course, as I told you, Ibrahim's father, he told him, if you do not desist, I will surely stone you and leave my presence. Get out from here. I don't want to see you. I don't want to live with you. The last statement before leaving, Ibrahim said, Salamun alayk. Sa'astaghfiru laka rabbi innahu kana bi hafiya. Peace be upon you. I will pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to my Lord, to forgive you. So asking, offering salam to his father and promising him that he will keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua for him, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive his sins. The ulama, they said he stopped making dua for his father after his father passed away, and he knew that his father passed away as a mushrik. There are some ulama that Ibrahim alayhi salam will actually disassociate himself from his father actually on the day of judgment, when he will find out that his father will be in Jahannam. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But they said he kept on making dua for his father his whole life, even though he did not live with him. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam left Iraq and he went to Palestine, stayed there. Palestine was the headquarters of his da'wah, but he started moving. He kept moving around in the area. He went to Egypt, he went to Mecca for a couple of times to visit his wife and his child Ismail alayhi salam. He was going that area in the Middle East, making da'wah, inviting people to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we know that he did not live with his father, but he kept making dua for his father. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يوفقنا لكل خير. والله تعالى أعلم. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.